Well, something dawned on me when I was researching lineage, and I was researching lineage on, actually was going into British royalty, but this is something that has actually always been brought up about silver and gold, that it's money that's existed for thousands of years. It's something that you own physically. But then I started thinking, you think about monarchies. Think of the British monarchy. How did they hold power for all those centuries within the same family? It was due to material, hard assets. It was not due, we know the electrons weren't developed until recently, where you can have electronic money. And money can also just be a medium of exchange, just as guys with no intrinsic wealth, if you want to think of it that way. But it was actually hard assets. It was hard assets that were passed down from generation to generation. Hard assets that you protected, and hard assets that actually generated you more money. And I started thinking about, what would be the equivalent of electronic money centuries ago? It would be something that maybe an artisan could craft. Say maybe you took an object and you carved it into an intricate shape and you painted it with various hard enamel colors, and you said that object is now representing a worth of, a value, has a value assigned to it that is being treated as money by law. And you could say, well, only the monarchy has the best skilled artisans to make this money, and it could be created by only the monarchy by law. But then you start thinking, well, somebody else could just say, well, I don't care about that. I don't need to use that as money. Why do you, in other words, the only reason something is money under those circumstances is that it's money by force. That's the deal behind any fiat money. That's why it will not stand the test of time. And I'm start thinking about this because there's, the electronic age is a new phenomenon, but not really the concept of fiat money. And I could see that, it could have been dreamt up, years ago. I know with paper notes, I know that's been around a long time ago. But even prior to that, it could have been dreamt up where people have experimented with other objects, and I know they have, prior to not using maybe gold and silver and maybe copper and other types of coinage. The thing is, any society that decided to use artisans to make special coinage that only they deemed as legal tender is wide open to somebody else copying it and, counterfeiting it, and you wouldn't know. Like, for instance, in a digital age, it's ridiculous that if the code gets cracked, and this is going on left and right as it is, and you see how the Chinese are with their expertise in hacking into even the Office of Personnel Management and the government computers. And what's to prevent them from saying, well, we have our digital money, we don't want to use yours? I mean, instantly overnight things can change. You really can't do that with gold, though. I mean, if you have gold and it's protected by the force of arms, as was in the case of the British monarchy over many centuries, it's a matter of, either you have the gold or you don't have the gold. And that is something that just cannot be copied. You have to get it and mine it from the earth itself. So when I was thinking about these, I was looking back and, at this lineage, research I was doing on myself with the lineage, and I was thinking to myself, I started relating this to the gold and silver, and I said to myself, it's like, could you imagine if the British monarchs were resting their fortunes on artisans that created things that they deemed to be money? In other words, even prior to paper money, that they deemed like these artisans are the official artisans of the court, and they're going to make the money for us, and this is going to be the legal tender of the empire, and it's going to be the legal tender of the empire by law, which will be by force. But what would prevent another foreign government with the power to get other skilled artisans to create that money and counterfeit it to basically destroy your money supply and undermine your actual monetary system? What would prevent them from doing that? Nothing. I think the only thing that's actually going to stand the test of time is hard money and a force of arms. I mean, that's the one thing the United States really does have going for it, is that it does have a very large military. And even if some catastrophic collapse happened today with the the dollar, which I don't think it is. I think the dollar is going to get more devalued, but the U.S. military's got so much behind it right now, and also the population itself is so well armed that the country will not fall unless they divide up the country and they set its people upon each other, as George Soros would like to do. But the one thing I want to bring out, another story here, because I read this recently. It was actually Bullion Direct. Bullion Direct is one of these places you buy bullion. You give them a check for like $5,000-$10,000 or whatever, and you supposedly have stored metal in your account. Well, it turns out you don't have stored metal. Bullion Direct is bankrupt. And I think this is just going to be the beginning of the end of what's going to be showing up, because this is something I've always said that doesn't make sense. I realize how much people, like fiat money can actually be held in force for so long by the force of arms. And actually what actually benefits a nation is when they win a war. I mean, basically, this is really, what happened with the British Empire. It's what happened with the American Empire over the years. But in the long-term aspect of things, when you turn away from hard, sound money, it's impossible you're going to freaking stay strong forever. And, I just keep, when I start researching, I know it's like a thing that you heard so many times before, but it just seemed to be so much more, I became so much more acutely aware of it when I was researching lineage. I started thinking to myself, I'm thinking about the British monarchy, how long they've been in power, for how many centuries and centuries and centuries going back. I mean, if they were using a form of electronic money at the time that was, say, not like, they wouldn't have electronic money, say, 1,000 years ago. And they probably wouldn't even have had paper money 1,000 years ago. But the thing is, if they had artisans that created objects that function as money, and they went with that, they would not have survived today. They actually they only survived through all the centuries by having hard assets, which is like real estate, having hard assets, land, which doesn't go away, and hard assets like gold, jewelry, silver, not even so much silver, but gold. I know these people in the financial realm knock it, but it's not archaic. And I can almost guarantee you the people on the top are buying it up right now that since it's very cheap. But when I'm looking at this, I just said to myself, it's impossible they would have stood the test of time by just saying, we have artisans that can fashion wood into a certain shape, and, just as they're doing today with electronic money. What's to prevent somebody? I know, like, the Bitcoin came up, and then there was Dogecoin and all this kind of garbage. But the thing is, how long could it actually stay? How long could it actually stay? It's impossible. The British would not have survived as a power anywhere near as long, especially looking at the monarchy. Especially looking at the monarchy. They would have never survived in power over just non-hard assets. It's impossible. And now I'm reading that, Bullion Direct of, another thing is like they're bankrupt. There's nothing to them. They're gone. You people have been investing money, and I'm thinking about all these other funds that are out there. There's probably nothing in them, for all I know. There's probably nothing in these funds. When I'm looking at these funds, like I told people before, I'm acutely aware of what Series 6 and Series 7's brokers get for salaries. Even a little minor broker with just a Series 6 license and have $20 million worth of clients' money under their belt, which is not much, all their clients put together, they're making six figures off these people. How is that fund that is storing silver, gold, or other hard assets paying these brokers? How are they, they're paying not only the broker's salary, they're paying the building, the electricity, their phone, their insurance, their health, their commercial liability insurance, their health insurance, their communications and internet, their computers, their trips that they have to do, talk to get new clients and things like that. I'm saying these funds are totally barren. There's nothing to them. There's nothing in these funds because they've been paying fees out of them forever. They can't be storing as much money as metals in these funds as they say. And the tip of the iceberg has just came about now with Bullion Direct because they're now bankrupt. But I think the truth is going to triumph in the end. I'll say, to put an axiom in one way, because it's like reality just catches up. Hard assets is the only way, actually, the British monarchies have survived. Yeah, you might say political intrigue, marriages, and shrewdness, but all that involves, the main strategy is keeping hard assets. It's not like I got a locker full of paper from notes of something from some way back. For instance, you look at if a government prints paper and they lose a war, like I showed the force of arms, which keeps the fiat paper in force. If they lose a war, that paper becomes worthless. If a government has gold and they lose by a force of arms, as long as nobody finds the gold, they still are in business and they're still wealthy. I find that, I knew these things before. I mean, it was 101. But here when I'm researching lineage, and I'm going back all these years, and I'm starting to think about, how the hell these people keep this wealth in the one family so long? And then I started thinking about hard assets. And what would the equivalent be years ago of, just electronic money? It would be like an artisan drawing on an object and painting an object and carving an object and saying, well, that's the monetary standard of the kingdom. They didn't do that. They stuck with, real gold. They kept gold and silver and maybe copper or something, but, they kept real metals. And so that's a lesson as actually why the monarchs and the British. So proud British biker. So anyway, I figured to put that on here as a different twist. But what I'm seeing now is, and I just came across this story, is Bullion Direct is bankrupt. They don't have the money in there, and I'm thinking, they're not the only ones. I think you're going to find out a lot of these ETFs, electronically funded, electronically traded funds, they're going to be broke. They're not going to contain the underlying asset. And the bottom line is, the underlying asset is what makes it worth something in the first place. Yeah, I know paper could be, there's a catch each way. In other words, if I have a document and I say I own this title to this bike, well, the paper is just as good as the bike. Because if I transfer the document of title, the bike is backed up by the title. But then again, if I have, if there's 100 documents, 100 titles issued for the same bike, what happens then? And that's exactly what's going on in the metals department. And we've already been seeing this now very, very recently with Bullion Direct. I know it's been said a long time, but it seems like the BS can be kept a much, rolling a longer time than you think, because nobody is really taking it serious, because they're looking at, well, how much is silver worth today? How much is gold worth today? And it's going down. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know about this deal, because, it's almost like the shrewdest people are the ones on the top. As far as I know it's been this way last year. Central banks are still accumulating. They're still accumulating. But, they're not accumulating a piece of paper that says they own gold. They're taking the real gold, like the real bike. The real bike. They want the real object. So, I got to tell you that I think what's going to happen is we're going to find out what's in these funds. They're going to be totally devoid of, when you look at what's in the fund itself, you're going to find that there's nothing there. Nothing there at all. Nothing. And that's when you're going to see, what everybody's been saying for so long, the price of silver and gold go way the hell up. It will go way the hell up. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And, it might be during a time of war, too. Because when there is actually what's going on today is like we have a problem whereby countries are trying to all devalue each other's currency in a bidding war, basically, to boost their exports. And at the same time, for some reason or another, gold and silver is not going up, at least not in the U.S. dollar. It is in some other currencies, though. But the thing is, when everybody's in a war like this, trying to devalue the currency to boost exports, to boost their economy, it's a matter of, it's everybody's in a race for their currency to get to the bottom. And, that's not going to last. Now, the other thing is, I want to tell you this. All the debts of the nations, they're actually fictitious. And to give you a crazy example, I don't know if I have that anywhere referenced. I probably don't. I'll probably just do this right from memory. But say, for instance, somebody, it's like a guy walks into a hotel. He lays $100 bill down on the counter. Well, and he goes, well, here's my $100 to do, I'm looking for a room. Could you hold a room for me and see if you have a room, right? If you don't have a room, give me my $100 back. So in the meantime, the clerk takes the bill, the $100 bill. He pays somebody off, and then he's that person who say he's the butcher or something that's feeding a restaurant or something. He pays off some of his bills, and then he pays off, say, a bartender with the $100 bill, and the bartender pays off some hooker with the $100 bill he owed the money on. Then the hooker goes back and pays the hotel the room that she owed the room on, right? And then it goes right back into the clerk's hand again. And the guy comes back, and the clerk tells the guy comes back, and the clerk says, "Well, we don't have any more rooms, so here's your $100 bill back." And in the meantime, all these debts got canceled. That's a stupid, simple example, but in a way, that's exactly what's going on with the charade with all the nations being in debt. What they're doing is just stealing all the real assets. And you know what the real assets are? As far as real money goes that's portable, it's gold and silver, platinum and palladium. It is. I couldn't possibly imagine how the British monarchs could even survive even on a force of arms all these years and all these centuries. It's impossible. They had to actually invest in real hard assets because they had to have the financial power to pay for the defense of their establishments and their holdings. We're looking at, it's amazing how everybody's got so hoodwinked on this garbage with electronic this and electronic that, and here's your iPhone, and here's your Android, and you can pay your bills online, and here's your electronic chip, and here's the credit cards are going to chips. It's amazing how everybody's got convinced of this stuff. Yeah, I know you're going to use it right now, But the thing is, that's the garbage. That's the outside money. That's the way I look at it. That is the outside money. And it could actually evaporate in your hands at any time. I mean, also has to happen is, something go wrong with something someplace, whether it's a military conflict or an economic conflict, and all the electrons could disappear. And you're looking at how well China is at hacking nations and things, and it's a matter of all that money could just disappear right off immediately. Everything that's electronic. I know it sounds a little like fear-mongering and stuff, and I know people have been saying it, but it really became super, super acutely aware of me when I was looking back in the lineage, and I was thinking to myself, how the hell did these British monarchs actually hold their power? They wouldn't have held their power by just creating money with artisans like the way they're kind of doing it today with electrons. I mean, that would be the way it would have been done 500 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago. They would have used artisans to make, what we have today as electronic money. And the only way it would have held together is by force of arms. But then again, what's to say that somebody can't copy that or just make something else up that functions as money? The reason people have agreed upon gold is because it always has been a good function of money. It's almost like, I don't know, maybe you can compare it to, like, I don't know, a classic Triumph motorcycle or something, It's like, what functions good as a motorcycle, What really works? What really works? You don't put, like, 3 wheels in the front and 1 in the back and the gas tank behind the rear wheel, What really works? What really works? It's been the standard because it does work. It's been and the people on the top that are playing the shenanigans, the casino, they don't like it because, well, they're playing a game. They're stealing everybody's wealth, putting everybody in debt, having everybody work harder and harder, more hours, for less pay, while they're grabbing more, and everything's getting in more and more debt. And, the government being in debt, you say doesn't affect you? Yeah, it does. Because what will happen is they'll have to either raise taxes or they'll have to renege on benefits you paid money into all your life, Medicare and Social Security. And then they'll tell, well, why should the younger generation pay for that? Well, they didn't pay for it. You paid for it. If you're the older generation, you paid for it your whole life. Younger generation didn't pay shit into it. But the government will sell it to them like, well, you're the big voting bloc, don't pay for it. So, yeah, I look at it like, the writing's on the wall for the freaking deal with electronic money, and it's already showing up with bullion direct. Fake bullion. People put money in it, and you know what? The bullion's not there. It's like a fake biker, You got a certificate that says you're a biker. You got a magazine that says you're a biker. Maybe even got a leather jacket and some goggles or something. But you don't have a bike. You don't have a bike. And basically that's really what most of these funds are, these electronically traded funds. They're nothing but, it's poser money. That's all it is. You want the real deal, and when you have title to the real deal, you want to be able to touch and feel the asset that you actually own, which is the bike. You don't want to have 1,000 people have same title to the same object. And I'm going to tell you, that's the only way actually is real money, real owned money, tangible hard assets, real estate like what Trump owns. And also going to mention something about Trump again here. I'm not really sure where he's at politically, but I could tell you one thing. The one video I put out first about him, Donald Trump's actual financial future is tied to how well the United States is going to be doing economically as a country. because land values in rich countries go up, land values in poor countries are low, and they go down. Like, in other words, if you want to see, maybe give an example of what happened in Vietnam, property values on a beach were basically nothing, and then once they start selling timeshare resorts, vacations on the beaches of Vietnam, the property values go up. Or like in Costa Rica, same type of deal. If the country gets more wealthy, the land values get more wealthy, and not only that, there's more business to come into those establishments, resorts, and casinos that bring in a bigger revenue stream. If the country gets more poor, Donald Trump's going to lose more money, not only on his land values, but also on the amount of money that people have, net disposable income, to use his golf courses, use his restaurants, and use his casinos. So he is, I don't know what he is exactly politically. I know he's used to be allied with the Clintons, but then I'm starting to think of myself. His ass really is on the line. If the country doesn't do well, he doesn't do well. So, I'm trying to keep abreast of the situation and, get over what the hell's coming up at us. But, yeah, I don't know. When it just hit me like a laser how, well, it was like the actual raw, unvarnished truth came forth when I was looking through, like, the British peerage, the lineage, and I'm thinking to myself, how did these people actually, what wealth did they hand down to each other from all these years? It wasn't like, the latest software on my iPhone. It wasn't the latest video game. It wasn't like I have a video game of Buckingham Palace and that's what it counts. No, it was the real deal. It was the real deal. So, it's almost like, what really counts in the world? It is reality. It is reality. It is not something that is the illusion of something. So, it's a matter of time when fiat money is going to be, there's only so much force of arms that can actually protect the value of fiat money. When it really comes down to it, fiat money is really for the commoners. That's what it comes down to. People think they're freaking on top of the world by going with the latest, greatest technology. But fiat money is for the commoners. When everything, all the dust settles and everything after a major financial battle, the only thing that's going to be left is hard assets. The only thing that's left standing is going to be the gold and the silver and the platinum and the palladium. And, I don't know, I've been researching the hell out of this lineage stuff. I mean, overnight, all the way through the whole night to, over days of this stuff. That's why I haven't been putting out as many videos. And it just dawned on me about how it all relates to silver and gold. Where power has actually been handed down and where power really is. It's in real tangible assets. The game of electronic money is just a method to control the commoners. That's all it is. And put them in debt. You want to go with the real deal. That's all there is to it. And hopefully I got this through to people because I know it's a message that's been said before many times. But somehow it really dawned on me like a laser, far more so than before when I was really looking back into the lineage and peerage of the British monarchies. I says, no way in hell did they freaking rest their future on fluff. No, it was hard assets.